All right, reporting live from the Student Success Coach Lounge. All right, reporting live from the Student Success Coach Lounge. We bring to you the workshop Rags to Riches. We talk about your college experience, some of the things you may be going through, and we talk about some of the expectations that we may not have felt that turned out the way that we wanted them to. And we talk about how we can turn this into a rich learning experience, i.e., reframing failure.
So welcome. We are your student success coaches. There are many of us. All of you are assigned to one of us. But we are part of the the LaSalle Center for Academic Achievement. So that hosts many things. So all of your subject tutoring, the writing tutoring, peer academic coaching, which can help you figure out like how do you even study or how do you take notes, things like that. And all of us, we are all here to help you.
All right. So we're going to talk about failure. Coming up is the agenda. We're going to talk about failure first. Then we're going to talk about an example. We're going to give you a scenario. Then we're going to talk about the context of failure. And then we're going to finish off with reframing failure and preparing for the future.
So first, I'm assuming that if you're listening to this, you had something that did not go as you had planned last semester, something that you feel kind of yucks about. So we want you to take a minute now. You can pause the video and just think about something that did not go as well as you'd hoped, did not go as you planned, whether that was in your control or out of it, just something that you did not love about how your last semester went. So pause, take a minute, think about it, and then we'll be back.
All righty, welcome back. Hopefully you actually took that break and thought about it. So we want to talk about what is failure. What does failure mean to you? It's a disappointment about not meeting certain expectations. Now, these could be set by yourself or set by others, right? Now, failure, like I said, an expectation that you feel like was not met. Now, this can cover a multitude of different areas in your life, right? We can talk about academic goals, right? You may have gotten straight A's in high school and then you showed up to college and got your first C and you don't feel too good about that, right? You can feel like you failed in this area, right? So this may be an expectation that you set for yourself, right? Whether you said it out loud or whether you just expected that you were going to do this and get straight A's in college, right? And you don't feel the best about this, right? It could be personal goals, right? You could have had certain goals that I want to keep my room clean and make my bed every morning. You could say, I want to brush my teeth twice a day and you only doing it once or every other day, every day at least, right? Or you talk about wellness goals, right? We talk about wellness goals where, when I got to college, I planned to get a six-pack, pack on 15 pounds of muscle, and packed on 15 pounds of something else, right? And maybe you don't feel good about that. And that's below what you expected for yourself. Or maybe you decided you wanted to get a certain amount of sleep every night and you're not getting it, right? It could be social goals, right? This could mean I wanted to, make a certain amount of friends, right? People told me that you can make so many new friends in college, and still all I know is my roommate, right? That you could have that, right? And you feel like that it's not meeting your expectation. You feel like you're the failure in this area. Or it could be something like career goals, right? I wanted to get an internship in my major, right? Or I wanted to really nail down what I wanted my major and my future career to be for the next 30 years. And that's just not happening right now, right? There are different things that affect the expectations that we have, which means there are different things that affect this feeling of failure that we can have when we don't meet those expectations. But we want to dive into reframing this and more.
So here's an example. Alex's fall semester didn't turn out as well as they hoped. They had planned for all A's and B's like they were doing in high school, but then they got on campus and feel like they had way more free time than they did in high school. In high school, you're kind of in school all day. But in college now, you have classes that might be like an hour and a half, and then you have a bunch of free time, or you feel like you have a bunch of free time. So they made a bunch of new friends. They saw a bunch of new organizations and clubs they wanted to join. They found some cool places to hang out in the city, picked up some new hobbies, and maybe also some unproductive habits. They did not realize how time-consuming and difficult college-level work would be, which is normal. I mean, everybody goes through that. High school is very, very different than college. Then they got worried. They started feeling overwhelmed. They avoided doing the hard stuff. And ultimately, they ended up waiting too long and they didn't know where to go for help. So by the end of the semester, they ended up failing 2 of their 5 classes. And now they're feeling kind of bad about it. So if you didn't think of your own situation, we can, imagine Alex having a rough semester.
So we want to talk about the underlying reasons for failure, right? It's good to understand the context of the situation around the failure. So, was there something else going on that made it difficult to be successful, or what we deemed as success in this area, right? It could be things going on at home, right? Maybe you had an algebra class that you didn't do too well in, but you had, a sick family member at home, or your family was moving, right? And you don't have the same home base that you had, right? You could be trying to manage your commute, right? If you don't live on campus and it takes you an hour to get here, right? That could affect you, right? It's not a peaceful train ride through Philly to get here, right? Or it could be health, right? It could be health. You could have got the flu or something like that, or been dealing with different health issues, or new health issues that popped up, right? And you're not used to it. It takes some getting used to, but also balancing all your different obligations, right? That could be if you have to work, some of us have to work. If you have to commute and you have to work, or if you have an on-campus job, or you have a relationship, whatever it could be, or you have to help your family out at home. You have different obligations, but also it could be you're having fun, right? Which isn't a bad thing in itself, right? But sometimes we had a little too much fun, and that affected us being successful in the other areas that we wanted to get into, right? Or maybe we're prioritizing different things, right? And that prioritizing different things could be like, I'm here for academics, but I have a boss that's calling me into work, right? I have to do certain things at home. We all have priorities, and there are different, and these priorities compete sometimes, right? And that can affect how well we do in the areas we want to do it. And that can make us feel at the end like we failed at something.
And maybe if you're in that spot, you might know what you should do. Like you might feel like you know how to get out of the situation you're in, but maybe you don't actually know how to do it, right? Like I feel like everybody knows they should study, but how do you actually do that? Learning to study is a really hard skill, and not a lot of people learn in high school. And then you get to college and you're not in class for as long, and you don't have as much access to your professor, and you got to learn how to get things in your brain for real. So it's one thing to know what you have to do. It's another thing entirely to know how to actually do it. So maybe it's that. Maybe things are just harder than you thought they would be, right? Like college is super difficult. It's a complete change in your life from how your whole life before that has been. It's very different from high school. So maybe things are just harder than you expected. But thinking about these things and thinking about like the underlying issues that make stuff hard for you helps you make much more effective plans. So these things might be kind of terrible to think about, and you might hate it, but it is useful and it'll help you make good plans.
So we want to reframe failure. So how can failure be valuable, right? And how can you use this moment as a opportunity to learn something new, right? What can you actually learn from this moment?
So to do that, we want to kind of assess the damage. You want to think about all these different things, so you can think about, what are the actual underlying causes and what might you be able to learn? Like, what did you learn and how might you be able to move forward from this? So who can you talk to who might have some insight about anything you're struggling with and how you might get better in this area, right? Like, people around you, you've seen people who are doing the things you want to do. You can go talk to them. And if you're not sure about any of this stuff, you can come to us and we can talk about it too. We can help connect you with people. It's also useful to think about, what did you actually fail at, right? Like whatever expectations you had, if they were your own expectations or things that came from other people, like where did things actually go wrong and what did you actually lose? Things might feel like, it's the end of the world, or like I'm going to flunk out of college immediately, or things like that. That's how it feels. But it's important to think about like what actually happened and, what are the actual outcomes of that, so you can make like more objective plans. And part of that is thinking about what resources and skills might be helpful in the future. So maybe you knew you should study, but you didn't know how to do that, right? So we can work on that skill. That's a skill. And we have resources to help you with that in the Center for Academic Achievement. Part of another thing is, another part of thinking about where you went wrong is, what did you learn about yourself in the process, right? Like even if your fall semester didn't turn out how you wanted it to, you still learned a lot. You learned about what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what times of day are good for you, what kind of environment you need to like actually get the work done. Do you need it to be quiet? Do you need a little music? Do you need your friends to stop talking to you and leave you alone for a bit? What did you learn that is going to help you make good plans for the future?
Right. And even more so, you want to think about what is in my control and what isn't. This is a good grounding technique when you take a step back and look at a situation and think about, this is a very uncomfortable situation, but what can I control in this, right? I have an 8 a.m. It's the only class available at 8 a.m. It's the only class I can get into, and it's 8 a.m. I have no choice, right? I can't control that, but I can control making sure I have energy for this 8 a.m. Right? Do I need to wake up a little bit earlier so I can get the blood flowing? Do I need to get some coffee before I go to this class? Do I need to be taking notes in a more effective way so that I can actually pay attention because it's early and I'm tired? And nobody wants to sit in a class at 8 a.m.
Nope.
Right? Unless you
Not me.
Yeah, but,
Some people.
yes, some people, the overachiever. But you got to think about what's in your control and what isn't. Right now, you can also think about what went well and what didn't go so well. Right. This is a way to take a step back and look at there. Sometimes we look at failure as though everything just went wrong and I didn't do anything right. But sometimes you need to write out the actual things that you did do well. Right. I may not have done well on this final exam, but I did take good notes. Right now, maybe my notes weren't as legible. Maybe my handwriting's a little sloppy. So guess what? Maybe I need to start typing my notes. That way I can read them when it's time to study again, right? Or whatever it may be, right? Maybe I need to take more specific notes, right? The professor referenced a certain page in the book. So maybe I can write that down while they're talking so that I can go back and look at that particular page since I know that the professor referenced that, right? What skills of my own can I capitalize on? Right? You may be somebody that is good at organizing, right? So maybe you can use your organization skills to improve this particular area. Or maybe you realize you have a skill of working with people, right? So maybe you can be that person that is good at organizing study groups, right? So these are just different things that you can pay attention to. What would I have liked to have happened, right? Sometimes we fail at something and we don't even realize what we wanted the actual result to be, right? What would I have liked to happen, right? We're not comfortable with the C, but we didn't really envision ourselves succeeding in the first place. Right? So now it's looking like, what did I expect in the first place? This class was hard from the jump. I didn't really have high expectations, but I didn't get a good grade and or what I thought was a good grade. So what did you actually want in the first place, right? Did I have a plan with manageable steps and did I follow through? If not, why not? Right. So did the plan actually have some steps? Because you could sit there and say, oh, I wanted to get an A in math, but you know that you've struggled in math consistently throughout your educational experience. Right. So did you actually have a plan on taking steps to get this thing done, to be able to strengthen your skills in this area? Did I make a plan to meet with the professor during their office hours? Did I try to plan a study group? Did I try to take a few minutes a day to work through this problem? Right. This is something to think through to make sure that there are more bite-sized pieces, and we'll get into that on the next slide.
So once you've thought about all these things, which might be really uncomfortable to think about, that's fine. You know, this process kind of sucks a little bit, but it is important. So once you've thought realistically about all these things and what you've learned about yourself and what you feel like, you know, you can improve on and what you feel like your strengths are and stuff, then we can make good, effective plans for moving forward, right? So part of making good plans and, you know, setting yourself up for success in the future is just accepting that things might be more difficult than you imagine. That is always going to be true. This is always a process of tweaking. You're never going to like figure something out finally for real. It's always an ongoing process, right? So plan for that. Plan, you know, leave yourself some room for thinking that things might not be going exactly to your plan, right? And part of that is making use of your resources. So the Center for Academic Achievement has a whole bunch of things. We have tutoring, we have success coaching, we have peer academic coaching, there's writing tutoring, all kinds of things. But there's also, you know, you can come meet with us and we can connect you with other things too. There are other offices on campus, there are other people we know. Maybe it would be really useful to get connected to like another student who has similar things going on and you can work together on stuff, right? Like we're here to connect you with all kinds of things. But another thing is just trying to take preventative measures, right? And part of that is asking for help early. So try not to get to the point where you just feel so overwhelmed and let things, you know, derail completely, but working on, you know, not being so embarrassed about not being as good as you want on things and just asking for help early. Asking for help is how people get through college. And the earlier you do that, the more likely you are to actually get what you want out of it. And all this work you just did about thinking about the underlying causes of what was hard for you, what was challenging, and working with us on making plans that feel feasible, that feel manageable, that are bite-sized, that you can actually do, that you feel confident about doing, so that you make it easier for future you to actually be successful.
Exactly. Now, this next piece, reflecting and planning, right? So we came up with this worksheet that should be able to help you break down your experience in a way that's more manageable. You can see it on paper, and you can have a place to go after this, right? So welcome to the Rags to Riches worksheet. All right, so the first box is going to talk about assessing the damage. What didn't go so well, right? So this is where you put the experience that you didn't feel that good about, right? Whether it be I got a C in algebra, whether it be I didn't join any clubs this semester and I plan to be in a few. I didn't get out and explore the city at all. Whatever it be, whatever it is that you feel like you failed at, right? Or I didn't get to talk to any of my professors and I didn't get to pick a major. Whatever this thing is that you feel like you failed at, right? The next box is what did I try that actually worked, right? So this is a process of taking this moment where you feel like you failed at something and being realistic with yourself. Sometimes we feel like something didn't go the way we wanted and we're very hard on ourselves, and now is not the time for that, right? You want to think about what did you do that actually went well, and that is how you assess an issue, right? Because it's not all bad, right? There are some things that just didn't go well, but there are some things that you did do well, and you want to keep those things, right? You don't want to throw out the whole salad just because you don't like cucumbers, right? Now, the next thing you want to think about, what did I try that didn't work? Right. So this is where you look at, okay, maybe I said I wanted to study for 3 to 4 hours every day. But guess what? Maybe evenings aren't my best time to study after I have eaten dinner. Right. So maybe
Food coma time.
exactly. It's food coma time and it's time to actually go to sleep. So maybe you're thinking about, okay, maybe this didn't work, right? Or maybe you tried to do a study group, right? You realize certain people aren't the best people for you to study with because maybe they talk a little bit too much, right? Or maybe you tried studying alone and you realize that doesn't work well either because you don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of as you're trying to learn something. You write down the things that did not work, right? So another one, how can I make this bite size, right? When you're eating a pizza, you're not going to, well, hopefully, well, listen, if you're eating a whole pizza, right, you're not just going to stuff the whole pizza in your mouth. You're going to take it slice by slice, bite by bite, right? And sometimes you need other people to help you finish that pizza, right? So you want to bring people in, how to make this bite size. You don't have to carry the whole weight of this, whatever goal you're trying to accomplish alone. You want to bring people along that can help you along the way in whatever fashion, but also break this down into steps. It may not be easy for you to say, oh, I want to get involved on campus and you don't have any way to make that bite size. Maybe it's going to the union, talking to the student leaders first, right? Maybe it's talking to my RA. How can I break this down piece by piece, right? If you're talking about your grades and you're studying for a final exam, maybe it's you're talking about your grades and studying for a final exam. Maybe it would be beneficial to say, okay, instead of trying to study the week of for 5 hours a day, I want to break this up into 30 minutes 2 times a day in order to make this a little bit more manageable. And sometimes we have to break our goals down to digestible amounts, right? This next box, pick up to 4 things that you can apply from here. Now we say 4 and cap it off at 4 because you don't want to add too many things onto your plate, right? When you're trying to reach your goals, you don't want to try to overload yourself and give yourself anxiety by picking too many things that you have to follow up on. And you don't necessarily have to pick 4. You can just do 1 or 2 if you wanted to, right? But something that you can, that is actionable, that you can do moving forward, that is going to get you that much closer to whatever your goals are, right? And then the final box is your next goal or milestone. And this is an opportunity for you to look at the area where you assess the damage and come up with a new goal, right? Something that's more manageable, more achievable for you to take moving forward, all right? But you want to make this something that is based off of the 4 things that you are able to apply that are going to get you closer to where you're trying to be. Now, this sheet isn't just a one-time sheet. You can continue to come back and use this, right? This experience in college is about you learning and growing. And guess what? You're not going to get 100 on everything you do. You're not going to just pass everything with flying colors. But if you look at these opportunities as a learning experience, you can use this sheet to come back and continue to tweak your plan. All right. Well, these are the last 4 things I did. Maybe I want to do something a little bit different next time.
All of that said, we are here to help you. You can come to the Student Success Center. We are all here to help you work through all of this, right? Failure is not the end. Like all of learning and growing involves failure. So we're here to help you kind of think about that as an opportunity to change things. And changing stuff is hard. So we can help break that down and think about that and like make plans that feel realistic and actually manageable to you. And if you need help, just kind of thinking about how to stay motivated to do all those things, we can help with that too.
Yeah.
So you can find all of us, all of your student success coaches, your advisor, all of your other support staff in the Center for Academic Achievement. We are all on your Starfish. If you don't know how to use Starfish, you can come see us. But all of that stuff is in your portal, and we are happy to help you work through all of this. This is not an end. We're here to make changes and get what you want out of this time.
There we go. Peace, puppies. From rags to riches.
Okay, bye. We'll see you later.